So we talked about those ideas for like a whole day. And then right as we were like winding down, right as I was about to leave, he was like, there's one more idea. I was like, all right, what is it? He's like, what if you joined E2M as the CEO? And I was like, well, that's a big idea.
A few months ago, I did an episode of the Agency Hour podcast where I spoke about the fact that UGURUS had been shut down by DigitalOcean and that my friendly competitor, Brent Weaver, who had spent over 10 years building that legacy, was, kind of out in the wild. I wasn't sure what he was going to do with himself. And I made an episode, congratulating Brent on his efforts and his achievements, and also my observations on how I think that was poorly handled by DigitalOcean at the time. Anyway, fast forward, Brent is now the CEO of E2M Solutions, who you all know by now is a very, very good partner of ours. They are a white label WordPress design, development, SEO, content, ads, high-level AI agency. They have over 300 staff across India and the US. They serve a lot of our clients. They do a lot of work for our clients. And so it was time to get Brent on the Agency Hour podcast. So this is a fascinating episode where we talk about our journeys together as friendly competitors. We talk about what's happening at E2M. We do talk about UGURUS and the shutdown, and we unpack all of that. And so hang in there for the ride. This is a very personal episode with Brent, and we also talk a lot about the future of E2M and what they're doing with AI. And we've got a special coupon code if you want to attend their event in September in Colorado. It's joinvistara.com. It's essentially an AI agency event. So if you're an agency and you want to learn how to use AI to future-proof your agency, then get to Denver, Colorado at the end of September to Vistara. We also have a coupon you can grab near here, which will get you a couple of $100 off a ticket. So wherever you're watching this or listening to this, have a look in the show notes for the link. Without further ado, let's go and meet Brent Weaver. Ladies and gentlemen, the security are going to get fired here because they've somehow let Brent Weaver on the show. Dude, welcome to the Agency Hour podcast. What's going on?
I feel like I've crossed a threshold. So very honored to be on your show, Troy.
Oh man, I'm honored to have you here. And listen, for those that don't know, this isn't our first rodeo. I don't think. I think you and I have done we've certainly done webinars in the past. But for those that don't know, some people would think of us as competitors for a long time because you started UGURUS around about the same time that I started WP Elevation, and Brennan Dunn started W Freelancing. We're all kind of pioneers in this space 150 years ago. And for a long time, we ran almost parallel businesses, coaching agencies, right?
Yeah.
So people might be going, well, how come Brent's on the Agency Hour podcast? What happened with UGURUS and what are you doing now?
Yeah. So, it's no more. Actually, when we shut down or announced, I think you posted, maybe it was on the Agency Hour podcast, you posted this great kind of recap of UGURUS shutting down, and someone on my team messaged it to me and said oh, Troy's out there talking about the UGURUS shutdown. And my first thought was I was like, ugh, and then I watched it and I was like, that's so damn good. It's he covered the story really well. And he's not even on the inside. He knows it all really well. So I think the too long did not read version. I did sell the business to Cloudways. It was a strategic acquisition. I committed to staying on. I loved the vision that we had for what we're going to do with agencies over the next 5 to 10 years. It was going to be a much bigger thing than just coaching and consulting. At the time, Cloudways was serving about 13,000 agencies. And so we thought, hey, if we can bring the magic of the community of UGURUS and the coaching and the training and all of the amazing content, and we can empower, 13,000 agencies instead of, 300 or 400, that would be a really cool kind of execution of our vision. 9 months later, Cloudways got acquired by DigitalOcean. And so that whole plan didn't completely get thrown out of the window immediately, but it did eventually kind of, I think as DigitalOcean infrastructure business, compute, AI showed up. There was certainly a reshuffling of the priorities for DigitalOcean, and they decided that running a professional services business, which our community was at the end of the day, we're charging clients for coaching, wasn't aligned with the overall business, and they made a decision to stop it. And I don't know necessarily, Troy, if I would have made any different decision if I was the CEO of DigitalOcean and looking at my businesses and looking at my investment and seeing what AI was doing. I might have said, hey, let's get ruthlessly focused on the core thing, the main thing. And so that was the outcome.
Yeah. I mean, it makes, it's this great story about Steve Jobs when he came back to Apple and they had like 150 products in the market, right? And he took the top 100 people at Apple away for a retreat and he's like, okay, like first of all, the first thing he did was went to a whiteboard and he said, he drew 4 squares. We got, consumer and professional products, desktop and laptop. That's it. We have 4 products now, right? We have a desktop and a portable computer for consumers and professionals. And then he took the 100 people away and he said, right, you guys come up with all the ideas of how we're going to, revive Apple. And they came back with, like hundreds of ideas after a 2-day retreat or whatever it was. And then he put them all up. He said, right, let's get the top 10, put them up on a whiteboard. So they voted, painstakingly put the top 10 ideas up on this whiteboard. And they were all so excited. And he walked up and just crossed out the bottom 7. He went, right, these top 3 initiatives, that's all we're doing, right? And so I get it. However, and I think I mentioned this on the podcast that I did a recap of UGURUS, because I was looking at it from the outside. And there were 2 things that occurred to me. One is, okay, well, what happens with all those agencies that no longer have a home, right? I wasn't in the sausage factory, so I don't know, but I'm not from the outside. I don't think DigitalOcean handled that very well. I think it was just like, you're done, right? But the other thing was, which is why I'm glad we're having this conversation, is, dude, that must have fucking hurt. That must have been like, oh, you've spent years doing this thing, and for someone just to go, wow, it doesn't matter anymore and turn it off. What have you had to do personally to go, okay, this is not a reflection on Brent Weaver. This is just shit happens,
Yeah. Like a mentor of mine told me years ago, it's not happening to you, it's happening to the business. And so I think that that mantra of just, this isn't about me, this is about this asset, right? Like if I had a car and the car was getting like hailed on or was in an accident or, something happened, right? Like the car obviously is being damaged or whatever. And assuming that I'm like surviving safely, like as a human being, which I did, right? Like I sit behind a laptop all day on internet connection in a very safe place in Colorado, right? So like, there's no like physical harm to me as a human being, but obviously to the business itself, right? It was a terminal kind of moment, and I think just trying to separate myself. I think through the acquisition process, like over time, I was becoming more and more separated from the business. I think we had a really good brand with UGURUS. While I was still very much like kind of the face of the company, I wasn't doing any of the service in the back end. The mentors were there. We did kind of release all of our mentors from non-competes. We kind of helped set up a couple of them to take some of the clients and try to put them in a great position post shutdown. I don't think we had like an amazing amount of time with it, but I kind of feel like I don't know if a longer transition would have been necessarily any easier or better. Maybe 15 extra days or something to help plan some things better might have been a little bit easier, but there was certainly, corporate deadlines, quarterly earnings reports, et cetera, that were driving some of the timelines. And, we had to kind of just live with that. But overall, I mean, if I reflect back on the 3 years with Cloudways and DigitalOcean, I mean, for our team, it was an extraordinary learning opportunity. I learned a ton. I got to work with, literally billion-dollar company CEOs, like be in their meetings, have to present UGURUS as part of the weekly business review cadence. I was mentored by several leaders that were running, hundreds of millions of dollars in business. And then, I was meeting with them for hours every single week, and they were mentoring me and they were giving me, projects, opportunities. And so, and also for our team, working for a publicly traded company that had insane benefits and stock and all that kind of stuff. So like we all kind of reflected back and everybody that on the team that left UGURUS, they're all doing these like crazy, amazing things. They've launched new businesses, they've got like dream jobs, like they've all gone and they're doing very cool things. So I feel like overall, It was a very positive experience, even though in the midst of it, it certainly sucked. I took a couple months where I didn't really work,
Yeah,
Troy.
that was my
I
next
think,
question. Like, what?
yeah.
How do you recalibrate after an event like that?
Um, I renovated a barn and built a half pipe. That was,
Which, if you haven't seen, go and check out Brent's Facebook feed, and it makes videos about the half pipe there and the
yeah.
cycling.
We
Right.
actually I mean, this is crazy, but I had the same email address because it was like, it actually started for my agency in, I don't know when we got on Google Apps. It was like 2007 or something. And then that turned into the UGURUS email address and had that, all the way up till 2020, April of 2025. And then just like turned it off. And so then I created my own kind of personal domain business. I had no emails. So I'd go out to the barn and work on this ramp, and I'd go check my email and I'd be like, yep, still no email, and it was kind of refreshing for a bit. Obviously with my new career move, that's not the case anymore, but it was a nice break from the busy.
Did you? I've had people, some of our coaches actually, like, taking 2 weeks off with the family, and they leave their laptop home, and they've admitted that the first couple of days they're a bit shaky.
Mm.
They're like, did you find it hard to, like, did you know what to do with yourself for the first week?
Um, I mean, I did a lot of so we did a year ago, we moved to a homestead kind of land. It requires a lot of energy. It can require as much energy as you have, as much free time as you have to put into it. There's always something. And so I think I just kind of started like picking up stuff around here. And weirdly, like the more I was off, the more I would kind of fill my time. Like opportunity just kind of shows up. Like when you're not listening for stuff, like you just don't see the things, like all of a sudden I was like checking the emails from my kids' teachers, like they send these giant diaries every week of 1,500 words of what's going on in the classroom, and I'm like, archive, right? And so I started reading those, and before I knew it, I'm like volunteering in their classes and showing up for like a junior achievement business day and going on like class field trips and whatever. So after like about 3 weeks, it was like I could start seeing my calendar was kind of filling up again. Not with like bad stuff. It was like stuff that I had
Mm,
kind of ignored or wasn't paying much attention to.
mm. And then, at what point did you? Two parts to this question. At what point did you feel like you were ready to do something?
Mm,
And then, at what point did the conversation with E2M start?
yeah. So I mean I knew, like, officially I knew like January 15 that it was getting shut down. Like I was technically fired at like 8 a.m. and then I had not fired. That's not the right term. Uh, reduced in force, um, uh, or something like that, right? I was
Made redundant.
we
We in Australia we
made
call it made
redundant, right?
redundant.
So there
Yeah,
was,
yeah.
and there was a nice, separation agreement and whatever.
Mhm.
But so at 8 a.m. that was me, and then starting at 8:15, every 15 minutes, I had to do the same to everybody on my team. So it was like I had 15 minutes to
Fuck.
process and then show up as like a servant leader with our team and deliver, some hard professional news that it doesn't happen every day for people. And you have people that take it really well, and by the next day they're already moving on to the next thing, and you have some people that, you know, say very mean things and
Mm,
don't take it very well in the short term, but everybody's fine now.
mm,
But that was kind of difficult. So I knew, I actually approached, E2M, who I'm now CEO of. I approached them and said they were a big sponsor of UGURUS, and I was like, "Hey, that big annual sponsorship you guys just paid for, and we spent weeks and weeks like figuring out how to make it amazing for you. Well, can't deliver on that. Oh, why? Well, because we're getting shut down." So Manish actually, from a business standpoint, we had to let him know earlier than like the general public and kind of work through winding down a contract with them. And so, he said, "Well, you know, that stinks, but I'm going to be in the US in a couple of weeks. Why don't you fly out to Arizona and let's spend a day together?" And so went out there, and this was probably by March. And we went through a few different business ideas. He was like, well, I'll pitch you on this or this. It was like the first thing was like a company that they were going to acquire. Like maybe I'd come in and be CEO of that business and help kind of run it for a couple of years. One was to take the fractional AI services that they were launching and spin that off as its own business and go be CEO of that. So we talked about those ideas for like a whole day. And then right as we were like winding down, right as I was about to leave, he was like, there's one more idea. I was like, all right, what is it? He's like, what if you joined E2M as the CEO? And I was like, well, that's a big idea. Like we have 5 minutes to talk about that. Like, I'm interested. So he flew back out to Denver like the next day. Like he caught a red eye from, I think he actually flew from Arizona to Miami and then like landed in Miami, turned around and flew to Denver. Um, Anyways, we spent a day together and, planned out like what that might look like. And it started getting exciting. And I don't think it didn't finalize until like the last week of May. So from March to May, there was kind of this background thread of, the E2M opportunity. And there was 2 or 3 other things that I was thinking about. But I think at times I wasn't thinking about any of them very seriously. It'd be kind of like, I'm off this week. And then maybe a week or 2 would go by and I'd have a meeting with E2M about something. So it was, I didn't originally, I kind of thought, okay, I'm going to take a year. I was like, I sat down with my wife. I'm like, all right, sabbatical for a year, not working. And I think she was half exhilarated and half terrified of like me around all the time and, you know, just without anything to do.
On
So,
the half pipe every day.
yeah, right. Like, okay, so you're going to build a half pipe and you're going to, but I think it worked out really well. I got a good reset. I think I'm definitely somebody that enjoys work, enjoy having that purpose and that focus. And maybe after E2M, maybe I'll take that year off. I don't know. Maybe it'll be like 3 months instead of 2.
Mm. E2M are what, 330 staff now?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, primarily in India, but we've got about 6 or 7 folks now in the US.
Yeah. And so you come in to that organization. How does, a couple of questions. How does Manish transfer authority to you as the CEO?
Yeah.
And how do you earn the respect and the trust of 330 people who are like, well, who the fuck are you? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I
barely
I'm sure
listen to Manish. I barely listen to Manish, let alone this new guy. Right? How do you? What I get because I've been through this. Right? I hired a CEO, ran the business, didn't work out, and a lot of lessons there. And one of the big mistakes I made was not transferring enough authority, but also promoting someone based on availability, not ability. Someone who in hindsight, I don't think was the right person to lead a team. Right? And so what have you done tactically? I mean, obviously you have a name in the space, you were known to E2M, a lot of those people would have already known who you were, but what have you done tactically to actually earn the trust of the troops?
Yeah. So, I mean, fortunately, Manish was building a business where the customers are in the United States and his team was mostly in India. And the thing that I think he did differently than a lot of white label companies that are operating overseas, whether it's Eastern Europe or the Philippines or India, or Pakistan, is that he lived in the United States and he not only lived in San Diego for a long time, but he also was, he'd stay here for months at a time to go to conferences and to speak and to build relationships. And so because of that, he really had to create a leadership team in India that could operate without his constant oversight. And so there was an established leadership team that had an insane amount of autonomy and authority to run their business units. And Manish has a very high bar for what excellence is. And, so he had, I think, over many years kind of built and mentored that team to really be very autonomous in how they operated things. So in a weird way, when I stepped in and started kind of bringing some corporate governance methodologies of like weekly one-on-ones, weekly business reviews, kind of a documentation focused culture, data driven culture, right? It was almost like refreshing for the leadership team. Like I was like, oh, what do you usually cover with your one-on-ones with Manish? And, one of the heads of delivery was like, well, I don't really have one-on-ones with Manish. So he's like, this is a breath of fresh air. I get to meet with you every week. I get to speak my mind and all that stuff. So I think in a way, I was able to provide an immediate service to the leadership team that maybe was missing, and again, not missing from like a negative way. I think it created a really great culture of like self starters and self managers. But I think that was able to, the team was able to feel really supported very quickly, even though we have almost 12 hours or over 12 hours separating us. So just bringing some of
That's
that, like,
tricky. That's a hard time zone. Like 12 hours separation is a
yeah,
hard time zone. Like, are you up early or are they up late, or what's going on?
a little bit of both. I'd say we kind of both, like I kind of start my day. I'm at my desk around 5 a.m. Mountain Time, which means I'm getting up at 4:30, kind of getting to my desk at that time, and then they were already staying up till about noon Mountain, just to support the US clients generally. And some of the leadership teams certainly, when needed, will stay up much later than that. But that gives us like a pretty good chunk of the day where we're kind of hanging out together. Like we just launched our AI for agencies event called Vistara. And I mean, there was several team members that clearly stayed up like all night to work on launching that, because just launching something, it always takes an extra 30 minutes and an hour and 30 minutes, right? And so I think there's a little bit of a culture around leadership where they will kind of go late into the night. I mean, I'll have calls with Manish going into 3 p.m., 4 p.m. my time, and I'm like, okay, you need to go to bed.
Mhm.
I'm burned out from work and you need to go to bed, because I've been
Mhm.
working 12 or 30 hours and you've certainly been putting in more
Mhm.
hours than that. So,
Yeah.
but it's,
He's Manish has been on our podcast and at our online live events several times where it's 3 a.m. for him. He's like, yeah, I just got a few hours sleep and now I'm up. And, his work ethic and commitment is second to none. I've never experienced anything like it. He's just so freaking passionate and so determined and works so hard, which is a real credit to him. And obviously the culture at E2M is good when you come in. And so it must be tempting for you to come in and go, well, because I'd be like, I'm gonna fucking wave some Troy Dean magic here, right? But really, like that could be disruptive and damaging to everyone. So how do you temper
yeah.
that desire to kind of
Mm.
wave the Brent Weaver flag and then also just kind of fit into what's already working?
Yeah. And that's like, I think one of the messages that I made to the team, like really early on, like this is not a situation where you're bringing in a new CEO and like a turnaround company where you have like a big problem that you're trying to solve and like the business is heading in the wrong direction. The business is actually growing and thriving. And that was like my biggest concern was, coming in and just not screwing it up, right? Like don't break anything that's already working. And so, spending a lot of time listening, a lot of time kind of just distilling down like what I'm hearing from people and thinking about how to put that into, more of a documented strategy. So a lot of the stuff that, weirdly, I mean, E2M has grown, supporting over 350 agencies. I mean, 17,000 billable hours a month. It's an incredible amount of work. I mean, we launched more websites in a day than my old agency did in, sometimes a month or two, right? And so it's really an incredible amount of work, but a lot of the, I think Manish had in a brilliant way, but he'd led the vision of the company very much on like just sharing that verbally, repetitively with the team, but there wasn't like a documented like EOS style, here's our strategy on a page, here are our core values, here's our mission, our vision, here are our numbers for this quarter and that quarter. And so a lot of that for me was just saying, okay, what are we doing? First step is just let's put it all on paper and agree that this is the right things to be doing. And so I think, it's like I don't want to mess anything up, but I would like to at least kind of document and start to create transparency within the company of good prioritization. So I'd say in the last, I mean, I'm in week 9. Um,
Hmm.
we've already done an incredible amount of new initiatives. We've doubled down on our fractional AI services. We've launched our first in-person event that's kind of a combination of agency community as well as a lot of our customers at E2M, themed around how to help agencies build the agency of the future powered by AI. We've gotten on, I've probably been on a handful of industry podcasts. We've initiated sponsorships with a couple of additional agency communities. So I've attended my first event as an E2M team member. which was weird. I'm sure you know Josh Nelson of
Mhm.
Seven Figure Agency, but I was in his like big ballroom, and one of our former customers was like recognized as like a top uh, revenue agency at his event. And, Josh was like, hey, I'd love to take credit for this one, but this one's actually for Brent in the room. Right. So it was like fun, just to play a different role in an agency community, see it from a different angle.
By the way, we're gonna put the links to the Vistara event. I just want to give a plug for this. Kushbu was in San Diego. I don't even know when it was. Was it late 2024? Maybe might have even been 2023. I can't remember. But anyway, it gave an absolute blistering presentation on AI agents. I want to say it was 2024, but I could be wrong. And blew my mind and everyone in the room. And Kushbu has really been heading up the AI initiatives at E2M. So you guys are running an event, Denver, Colorado, which is your hometown, September 28 to 30. So 3 days this year. It's coming up. It's soon, right? It's in a couple of months. We're going to put a link in wherever the show notes, wherever you listen to this are, right? And we're also going to put a discount code specifically exclusively to us. Maverick 200, I think, is the discount code, so you can get $200 off. I firmly believe that AI is no longer an option, right? It's like if the horse has bolted. If you're not using AI to improve efficiencies, do launch initiatives that you otherwise wouldn't be able to launch. AI is not. I don't even think it's the future, right? I think it's now. And Kushbu and the team at E2M are very well positioned, not only because they've been doing this in their own business, but they've been doing it with and for agencies. So they know what's working and what's not. Get to Vistara September 28, 30 in Colorado, hang out for 3 days with a bunch of other agencies, talk AI, learn AI, go back with a blueprint on how you can adopt AI. And then if you need help with it, the team at E2M will be able to help you with capacity. So we'll put a link to the event in the show notes and also the Maverick 200 code. Use that code and get a couple $100 off the ticket and go. It'll just hanging out in a room with other agencies is transformative in and of itself, right? Because what happens is, we've seen this happen at so many events, is that you spend 2 or 3 days with other agency owners and you come away going, I'm not crazy. There are other people who are doing the same thing that I'm doing. And it's a massive validation and a reminder, but also you end up with a notebook, hopefully, full of tactical things that you can go back and employ in your agency that will help move a needle, but also you've got a whole bunch of new friends that can help you and can support you, and you stay in contact with them. So strongly recommend you get along to that event. What's the lineup? Is it just E2M speakers? What's happening at the event, Brent?
So we've got quite a few people from our core team, just in terms of the Kushbu will be giving a keynote. Ronak Patel, who actually is one of the owners of E2M. He was the owner of Unlimited WP. They got acquired. Now he actually is the CEO of an AI platform called Weem.ai. And so I don't know if I've ever met anybody that, can explain AI like grassroots up at the level he can for agency owners. He gave an amazing keynote for our folks in India. I got to watch that. So we're going to fly him out for Vistara. And then we've got a handful of other folks that are non-E2M. I don't know if you know Andy Crestadina. We just closed him today officially. So that's one of our speakers that we're going to be announcing soon. And we've got probably another 4 or 5 that we're just that close to being able to officially announce. So it'll be kind of a mix, about half core E2M team, including myself, and then 4 or 5 industry folks around AI. And we're also going to be having some of our like kind of customers or communities, agencies that are doing really cool things with AI that aren't like traveling the speaker circuit, but they have like something that's like a really cool AI integration or automation. So we're going to be creating some space for agencies to kind of showcase some stuff that they're doing. And sometimes I find that those things are a little bit more approachable than some of the people that are like super hardcore, like they have the N8N automations that are, like they've got 4,000 nodes. And they're like, look, I've automated my entire agency, right? So some of that stuff, it's like fun to watch, but and it definitely piques the imagination, but you also feel like, oh my gosh, I'm left in the dust. Like this guy's going to come and take my job.
Yeah, totally. Joinvistara.com is the link for that, the event. And as I said, Maverick 200 is the code to get a couple $100 off. What are you most excited about over the next 90 days, apart from the event? What are you most excited about at E2M? And the flip side of this question is, what are you most frustrated by at the moment?
Well, gosh, those are good questions. I'd say most excited about, I mean, certainly internally, we talk about AI kind of in two major threads. One is our AI services team, which has grown from a couple of team members kind of messing around and doing R&D internally. We gave Kushbu and some others, prior to me coming on board, kind of a blank check and just said, hey, spend as much time as you want on AI. And Kushbu went super deep and built a whole bunch of integrations and automations for our internal agency to see, like, can we actually add value? Starting in February, we opened that up as a service. And so, from our first client in February to now, we're supporting, I think, 23 agencies on a fractional AI basis. That means that we have a team member, either a half-time or full-time team member that's integrated with the agency, that's helping them to accelerate AI in their business. And that team is just like learning like so much. There's just so much new creation and exploration with those agencies. So I have to say the internal memos and briefs that I get to read about the fractional AI team, I tend to probably spend too much time reading about those just because it's very exciting to see what the team's building. But also in terms of the other thread on AI is how we're leveraging AI's internal tooling. So we started a series called AI First Saturdays, and actually our third one's coming up here in August, this Saturday. So every first Saturday, the entire E2M team comes into work. I know it sounds, like torture or something, but we view this as kind of a little bit of an all hands emergency of everybody needs to upskill. And so the company's investing by bringing speakers in, investing in tools, giving people like a lot of freedom to explore AI tools and also do some AI mentorship. And so, this Saturday is the third one, and the first one was like an exploratory, like let's think about what we could do with AI. The second one was kind of a hackathon build day, and this one's actually going to be a little bit of like a demo day. So we're going to actually see what everybody internally in the company has built using AI. And so that's probably the other thing that's really exciting is just seeing how AI is impacting, WordPress design and build, all the different CMSs that we use, how AI is impacting digital marketing services like SEO and PPC, how it's impacting content development. And so the company internally, everything that we're doing, it's better. QA is better. Time and billable hours are more efficient. And so it's really fun to just see some of the cool stuff that the team's building.
I'm just looking at your pricing for a fractional AI consultant. I just want to give people a little bit of context, right? A full-time AI strategist is $3,600 a month. You can't hire an AI strategist in the US for less than probably $200,000 or $300,000 a year, right? Like, this is nuts. I mean, if I threaten to start an agency every day because dude, can you imagine me and you, like back in the day, with all the technology that's available to us now, if we started our agencies now, but we were like 20 years younger, like we would have just absolutely crushed it because
Yeah.
the labor force that's available to us now all over the world wasn't really around 20 years ago, right? The AI that is available to us now, like even something like Reloom for doing sitemaps and wireframes my wife's a psychologist. I'm launching a website for her soon. I'm building a website for the first time in a long time. And it's horrible. I don't want to get back into that business, right? Because I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm out of it. I'm out of the weeds. But I'm using a bit of AI and I go, oh my God, this is like within an hour, we have a wireframe, we have a whole bunch of copy written. Stuff would have taken 2 weeks back in the day with approvals from clients. And so if you've got an AI consultant in your agency that's helping you become more efficient, one, you're just going to make more profit in your agency because you're going to be able to do things more efficiently. But then you can leverage that AI specialist and you can build AI stuff for your clients, right? This is not me just giving a plug to E2M. This is like genuinely, I've built a business here recommending things I know that work that are going to help agency owners make more money and become more profitable. And this is just another one of those opportunities that I think agency owners need to take very seriously. My question for you is, what's the what's the capacity for you guys to grow the AI consulting part of E2M, and because it's changing so quickly, right? How much are you kind of investing back into R&D to make sure that you're staying ahead? Because obviously you want to be able to service the agencies that you've got. So, like, what does that roadmap look like to grow that
Yeah.
part of the business?
I mean, I think, kind of pulling back the curtain a little bit, I think the half-time and the part-time plans that we currently have on the website are a little bit misleading because the amount of time that actually goes into each of those plans at this stage of the game is actually more than that because it's not just necessarily one person, but there's kind of a little bit of a team that gets embedded in each of our agency clients. And part of that is just our you know, insecurity of not wanting to underdeliver. We want to over deliver with everything related to AI right now. And there is a reality that there's a lot of learning that's happening right now. So that's one piece that we've said, look, we're willing to go the extra mile, like hardcore, while this is a relatively new service to make sure that we get this right with every single one of the clients that we bring on with the AI services. So there's kind of the AI strategist team member that's working with agencies. And then there's some back end implementers, trainees and things like that that are also supplementing that team member so that they can kind of over deliver for our clients. And the reality is there's a lot of learning going on for us. There's a lot of learning going on for the agencies. So a lot of agency owners will come into the fractional program and they'll be like, I want you to, be a sales agent or something, right? And there's like this very complex interpersonal role. And of course, a lot of agencies don't have maybe the amount of process documentation that we'd love to see. It's like, okay, show us your proposal. And you're like, oh, wow, they're all different. Hey, how do you guys price your projects? And the agency owner will be like, well, I kind of think about it a little bit and I put up the magic 8 ball and and we're like, okay, cool. Like that's not ready for AI. So like a lot of times we go into the agency, they kind of have these expectations of what, that we're gonna like flip a light switch and AI is just gonna appear in their business and it's gonna just, quadruple their revenue. And so the reality has been there's this kind of process optimization stage of we have to go in and look at, what actual processes exist, what are the processes, and then we start to go through and just say what could benefit from AI, and then also a risk factor of is this something that we've done before? Is this something that there's refined tooling around? Are the tools likely to change? Right. And so we just kind of build a matrix out of that and say, here's the priority. Here's what we think we should be working on the next 3 to 6 months. And then we get to work. And there's a lot of things that the agency owners sometimes want that we say, we'd recommend kind of holding off on this or get these things done first. And then let's wait on this stuff over here. So there's certainly a little bit of discipline that comes with it. Um,
It's interesting because you and I have been talking about paid discovery for years, two agencies, right? And the what I notice here is that I sign up to the E2M fractional AI thing. The first thing I'm doing is I'm going through an AI assessment, discovery, and blueprint, right? So basically, we're doing paid discovery there to lay out the plan, lay out the roadmap, so to make sure we're working on the right things at the right time, and we're not just getting distracted by what we could do with AI, which actually isn't going to be meaningful to the business. So props to you there for adopting
and if you even looked
that
at like
approach.
our like the team has like an agency playbook
Mhm.
that the agency fills in. And as somebody who's ran a coaching business for,
Mhm.
10 plus years, I look at the playbook and I'm like, oh, this is like the SOP playbook that we would have, we would just have the actual processes filled in with example processes or whatever. But, I think that's been kind of a prereq. The agencies that have been the best with AI are usually the ones that are very much more like process centric. They've got really dialed in processes. They actually use their processes. And so those teams, we can go in and say, okay, this thing over here, you've got great documentation on. We can load that into an LLM. We can automate things with end-to-end. We can kind of do some process mapping and consulting and create some kind of AI magic where there's a task that maybe you would never have asked a human to do it, but you're like, hey, why not go look at the top 100 competitors of a client's, website and build a comprehensive brief around that in, 5 seconds or whatever, or 1 minute, where you never asked a VA to do that or something, right? So there's some things
Yeah.
like that that we can come in and implement that clients are like, holy crap, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. How do you um, manage the temptation to just start coaching agencies that come to E2M? I imagine that must
Mm.
be very difficult for you to go, I just got to put my CEO hat back on and not get too in the weeds with them because, you've been doing this a long time and you've seen it all, right?
Yeah. I mean, fortunately, as I kind of mentioned earlier, I really got myself out of like Coach Brent seat. I think that was a rock on my VTO for, like many quarters, like get Brent out of coach, right? Like, and there was all these projects and attempts, and we had to come at it from like 50 different angles. And I don't think I got 100% out by the time UGURUS. I still had a few private clients and stuff, but there's been a handful of agencies that I'll talk to. They're interested in E2M services, or they're a current client. We did this like CEO campaign where we emailed all of our clients a link to my scheduler, and I did get a lot of bookings. And I think there was like this secret desire from some people to be like, "Hey, I just need help," right? And so, I mean, I'm happy to help where I can, but I
Mm.
can, I clearly know that's not my it's not my business anymore. But I'm happy to talk to people about niching, or I mean anything that we do to help an agency will certainly, if it grows
Yeah.
their business and they're using E2M, that's going to grow E2M.
Yep.
But fortunately, I'm not pushing 20-minute coaching calls out to our
Yeah. Yeah.
our
Yeah.
list just yet. So hopefully it doesn't come to that.
Yeah. We didn't close the loop. What are you most frustrated by?
I was wondering if you're going to come back to that. I was like, I'm certainly not going to volunteer that. I think, like, I mean, like on a physical level, I mean, the time gap is certainly a reality. I was going to go to India like the first 2 weeks, to kind of like put my feet on the ground in the office and kind of be around the team. We made a strategic decision to kind of push that off, partly because it was like 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 40 plus in Celsius. It was very hot, very muggy, not the right time of year to go to India. And so I think there's a piece of the relationship that's like incomplete in terms of being there, like getting to talk to people, break bread with people, and stuff like that. So that's probably one piece that I feel like is just still missing. I'm going to be going over in November. We've got like the trip planned out. We're going to do a huge company retreat, do a family dinner where literally everybody in the company and their families are going to come out to a really big dinner. I mean, there's people in India, they've got big families, right? We've got, team members that, 9 or 10 people in their households, right? Like very kind of multi-generational families is very, very common. So it's going to be a big dinner. So very excited about that. And
That's
also just to
awesome.
kind of feel more connection with the India culture.
Yeah, that's great. Dude, I'm so happy for you. I mean, I said this on the previous episode. I'll say it again here to you publicly. You are one of the very few people that has held me accountable and inspired me to get better, because you were a friendly competitor for so long. And I was like, well, like I have to get my shit together and keep going, because otherwise Brent's going to take over the world. And that I wasn't going to let that happen. So thank you for constantly being there to, like a speed car in a speed race, is like just keeping me going, and setting a target and setting a goal for me to try and reach. And so that's definitely been an inspiration for me. And there have been times where I've looked at the competitive landscape and gone, fuck, I'm just a dinosaur, man. Like, who gives a shit anymore? I'm too old. I should just get out of the game. And so you're one of those people that's been there for so long, that's just kept me motivated and kept me inspired, and seeing everything that you're doing. So yeah, props and massive respect for your journey, and very proud of what you've achieved. And now that you're at E2M, and E2M have been a great partner of ours for several years now, and so looking forward to keeping that relationship going. Can't wait to hear about Vistara. And yeah, just can't wait to keep the conversation going and have you back. Maybe get you back here in a few months and see how you're traveling as CEO.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to attending one of your events. I have to say, I've always been impressed with what you've put forward, and first of all, thank you for that sentiment, and I'd say likewise in terms of, I always thought of you as I don't know how many times, whether it's content you were putting out or a launch, I'm like, why isn't this part of our business as good as Troy's or whatever, right? So
Yeah,
you definitely
same. Yeah.
continue to raise the bar in a lot of ways. And I know a lot of our UGURUS customers, at least some of them, were kind of surfing in both communities, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
cool, right? It's cool that people would do that, and we'd certainly send people your way when we could. And I'm excited to attend one of your events. I feel like that'll be the real
Yeah.
threshold crossing when I get to be
Yeah.
at
We finally get to meet in
MavCon.
real life. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the agency hour, Brent Weaver. Appreciate you and everything you're doing for the agency community. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how it rolls out and keeping in touch.
Thanks, Troy.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Agency Hour podcast, and a massive shout out and thanks to Brent Weaver for coming on and being so open and vulnerable and personal about his story and what happened with UGURUS and DigitalOcean and his journey into E2M. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen there with him at the helm. And again, if you are, in an agency and you're anywhere near Colorado at the end of September, or you can get there, get over to the Vistara event. Joinvistara.com is the URL to check out the event. And Maverick 200, Maverick, and then the number 200 is the code that will get you $200 off a ticket. Now, it's a small event, so once tickets are gone, they're gone. I would suggest that you use that code and get your tickets as soon as possible. I don't get a commission, by the way. I don't get any affiliate commission or anything for you going to that event. I just know it will be a life-changing event for you, so you should get along, and that's why I'm recommending it. Super excited to have Brent on the podcast. Thanks for listening. Share this with anyone you know who will benefit from it. Subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any episodes. And shoot us an email, support@agencymavericks.com, if you have any feedback on what we can do here on the show or what you'd like to hear more of. I'm Troy Dean. Let's get to work. And remember, the real name for a hashtag is an octothorpe.